Watch Who.
Hello.
And welcome to Watch Who, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm Mark.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm a Doctor Who fan.
And I'm new to watching Who.
Yeah, watching for the very first time.
Very first time.
And welcome, listeners. We are on the stage at the Palace Theatre. Hey!
Hey! Imagine.
Welcome to the show, all you Victorian people. Yeah, we're here in the Victorian Times. I'm going to do a little magic trick now. Sarah, are you ready?
Yes.
Mr. Sin, can you please wheel on this magic box for us, please? Ooh. So if I open the box, there's nothing in it. Ooh. I'm going to shut the box now.
Not really breaking it down for us here.
Magic tricks on audio are tough. And now I'm going to open the box. And it's our guest David. Yay!
Yay!
Who's magically appeared.
Here I am.
Long-winded.
I'm just pleased you didn't say "Here comes a giant rat" or something, and it was like, "Hello, here I am."
Yeah, so we're talking about the Talons of Weng-Chiang. Welcome back, David.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's lovely to be back. Really lovely to be back.
Can I just apologise if there's crunching? I can't help that. Mark, if you can edit out the crunching, that's fine. I'm eating some toast.
You can't be eating toast on stage.
I am. My bloody takeaway didn't turn up, did it? So I will eat toast. This is my tea.
These Victorian people have paid like 10 shillings each to be here.
Well, didn't they go and get some muffins or something? It's just one of the muffins from the Muffin Man on Drury Lane.
I've noticed that every time I've been on this podcast, a takeaway hasn't turned up. Maybe it's me. Maybe that's like...
This was definitely me. It was my fault.
Okay.
Like, I thought it had gone through and it hadn't. So it's all on me. And then, so here we are with toast. And I'm sorry, I thought I'd have eaten by now. But I've not. It's for everyone's sake that I eat something, because otherwise I'll just get really hangry.
We don't want that. We don't want hangry and a 6-part story.
Oh, no, exactly. Exactly. So I've got 2 slices to go. We're nearly there, don't worry.
Okay. Well, I think we should... It's quite a long story. There's quite a lot to get into this one. I think we should go straight into it. I don't have any updates. I can't talk about Neighbours because all these Victorian people have never seen it. So we should just get onto it, shouldn't we?
Well, I want to know, before you get going, how you two both watched this for the very first time.
Very first time? As in the first time ever?
Yeah. Like, when was the first time you saw this? Or how did you get it? Or what was it?
I went to the DVD signing of this story it must have been about 2004 or 5. It was at 10th Planet, which was embarking, and there were so many people there that they had to do it outside. And I'm trying to think who was at. Louise Jameson was there for sure. Jago Lightfoot and the director was there. Bill Oddie was supposed to have turned up as well, but he didn't. I remember that. Bill Oddie was there signing a Doctor Who thing. I'm not sure. I can't remember what it was now. But yeah, and I remember getting the DVD then and watching it. And I was going to go into this, but I'm just going to say it now. This is one of my favourite Doctor Who stories ever. I mean, this is in like my top 5, if not my top 3.
Wow!
So, as a kid, this was one that I think as a young kid I didn't quite get it, but when I watched it when I was a bit older, I just absolutely adore this story. So that's the first time I watched it. Was after the DVD signing of that, which I went to. What about you, Mark?
I rented the video from the library, I think. I never actually owned it until I got the DVD. Like last week, Robots of Death, which is like in everybody's top. This is as well up there. Not many people have that bad a word to say about the story of this one. It was okay as a child, and then I absolutely appreciate it's got all of those elements that make a great story. Well, it takes from a lot of things. It's got all the sort of Victoriana stuff. It's got bits of Phantom of the Opera, Jack the Ripper, My Fair Lady.
I was going to say,
that kind of stuff.
My Fair Lady, Sherlock Holmes. It's got like so many little things in it that feel like little nuggets, don't they?
And it's so beautifully done. I think that's the other thing I love about this. There are not many Doctor Who stories, I think, that are done so well. And this one, I mean, obviously we'll get into it more, but like the atmosphere, the way it's directed, all the sets and stuff, I just think it's beautiful. I just think it looks stunning.
It felt really big and broad. It didn't feel like we're just on a set or something. Sorry, I've got toast in my mouth. The world that they were in felt large and stuff. I really, really liked all that.
I'm just disappointed that Sarah hasn't got like a huge bit of meat like Leela and just like biting it there with you.
Oh, I mean, if that takeaway had come, I probably would have been.
We start off at the Palace Theatre, this lovely theatre that we're in Victorian Times, which is filmed, which I think adds to it, where they actually have filmed in a real theatre rather than try and create that set. It just does add that extra layer to it.
But you can't recreate that sort of theatre, can you? You can't recreate that. Yeah, it's great.
If it was the 60s, they probably would try.
Yeah. If this had been a William Hartnell, I think they probably would have done it very badly.
Mm.
The mystery already starts off, doesn't it, with this lady that's gone missing, and we have how do you pronounce it? Weng-Chiang?
Weng-Chiang, yeah.
Weng-Chiang on stage doing his magic tricks, and then backstage there's something going on, something is afoot. And then the Doctor and Leela arrive. Great location filming in London, very atmospheric.
Yeah, it's so beautifully done. Like, I was watching this with my mum, as you know, who is a sort of ish Doctor Who fan, and I mean, even she said that the atmosphere in it and the way it's shot, and I think also because it's all done at night time as well, it just looks. It sounds stupid, but it does look like they've travelled back in time to Victorian London to shoot it. I mean, it's just stunning, and also nice that Leela gets a costume change.
I was going to say, Clothes Watch finally gets a costume change, but this, I think, for me, like last week's, because she was in her over garbs and stuff, I don't know, it felt a little bit more transitional. This is the first time where I felt like we're seeing her as this companion with the Doctor, because it was so out of her comfort zone. How does she fit within this world? How does she fit within, the unknown? That I really enjoyed, and that this felt like her first proper story in a way.
And I think Louise Jameson as an actress does it so well, because that character on paper could come across as quite irritating and quite annoying, but because she's such a good actress, like you're kind of with her the whole time, and obviously we'll get into it later on, but she's so good that you can leave her to do stuff, and she does a lot in this story with the Doctor not around. I mean, she's not like some assistants who just stand there and scream. I mean, she is, she's going off and fighting and trying to kill the villain. I mean, she's just in this. I think this is her best story.
I think she's what I really appreciated in this is that she's never not her character, and that's really strong. Like, but I think of like other companions, and by like the second or third story in, the essence of who they were that we met has gone, and they're just this companion character. But she is still who that character was. That has not changed. And yet she's in a completely different environment, completely different thing. All the things that she knows, and like you say, she could be this really annoying, but she's got such good balance of that, such good balance. And that's good writing, but also I think that's good from her, being able to sort of maintain this essence of the character whilst fitting it into a different. And, I'm sort of excited to see how that will develop and change.
Well, this works perfectly because it's starting off, the Doctor's starting to try and teach her a bit more now. It's her third story in. But then this fits perfectly with the Victorian stuff because, one, she has to get changed to be around these people. And it does fit in to that My Fair Lady scenario perfectly. But, without Leela changing from being from the Sever team and stuff. And it brings some comedy moments in this as well. And like all the fighting, that fight sequence at the beginning, the Doctor gets attacked, but then she's proper in there doing all the moves as well.
Well, she would be, of course she would. She's a fighter. That's what her character is.
And also, I think what's great is she's learning, and you see it in this story, like she's learning how to ask the right questions. She's learning how to, she doesn't have to knock everyone out every 5 minutes and things like that. I mean, and I think it's because of Louise Jameson being such a good actress that it just works so well, and the chemistry between the two of them especially is just brilliant. I think as well, this is a good time whilst we're on the first episode to kind of talk about this. Obviously, Lee Seng-Chang is not played by a Chinese actor. And I was interested, like, Sarah, when did you realise that this wasn't...
Quite early on,
Yeah.
actually. The makeup on the eyes wasn't great.
Yeah.
I never realised until I got the DVD years later and the guy was doing the audio commentary and there was a photo of him and he wasn't... as a child, totally passed me by. I did not know that. And it's come back up again as, you know, so there are those fans now that will be like, can't watch that. It's,
and do you remember,
you know, there's for what, you know, but I think you've got to put it in context.
Yeah. I mean, do you remember at the BFI? We went to see this at the BFI not long before lockdown, and Louise Jameson was there, and poor Louise Jameson was kind of getting it thrown at her, going, well, why did they cast these, you know, why did they cast a British actor? But it's interesting because, I mean, as you say, you kind of have to look at it as how TV was then. And you look at things like Rising Damp and Beggar Thy Neighbour that were all shows that were making fun of being racist. Do you know what I mean? Like, those are shows that nowadays you look at and you think, oh my God, like that was on TV then, but that was the norm, you know, that was kind of the norm. It sounds horrible to say it. And it kind of feels a bit like that with this as well.
You've got to watch it as the time, but then also a bit like when we did the Crusades, we talked about this and we said, yeah, okay, you recognise it as that's what it was then, that's what they would do, but you would know that they would not do that now, and that's not acceptable to do now. I don't think you can, and you've got to sort of put it in that context, but also don't go too extreme and be like, well, nobody, if you watch this or enjoy this story, you're racist or anything like that. You can still watch and enjoy the story and know that it was made in that time and that wouldn't be acceptable now.
It's interesting about all this because I've been off work today because I've not been feeling well, and you know when you're not well and you're just lazing around trying not to be unwell, and I did a quiz, or you know, like a BuzzFeed quiz on my phone, and it was films from 2002, and it was a mix of films that some that have like made now we're talking 10 years ago, we're only talking 10 years ago, films that like have stood the test of time, of those that haven't. Now 10 years ago in 2002 we had My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which was a fantastic film. We also had Dine of a Day. And I'm just going through like lists now. We also had some films that definitely have not stood the test of time, and for reasons that now these things just would not happen. The Hot Chick, or if we go back a little bit further, go back to like the 90s, Ace Ventura, and there was a whole thing where she's a man and everyone starts being sick and stuff. That just would not happen nowadays. Like now you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh. But at the time in the cinema, we allowed that in a kid's film, and we allowed all the characters to like throw up at the fact that the beautiful woman was actually a man, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So, you know, we're even in the last 10 years, and we go back as far as 10 years, cinema and film has changed a lot. And what was acceptable 10 years ago, or what we accepted 10 years ago, I think. Maybe it wasn't acceptable then, but we accepted it 10 years ago. We look at now with different eyes. So I think to put something that was in the 70s and be like, well, why did you do this? Well, we were still doing this in the noughties, you know?
Yeah.
We were still doing these sorts of things. And it's right to challenge it, and it's right to talk about it. Absolutely. Because it shouldn't happen. And we are much more aware of representation than ever before. There was a film Tom Hanks did really early on in his career. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but he did an interview recently and he said, I would never be cast in that film nowadays. It would go to an actor who it should go to. It would never go to me. And, you know, Tom Hanks, it probably made his career. It was very early on. I can't remember what the name of the film was. That's just the nature of what the industry was. And also we look at what the industry is now and it's different.
Louise Jameson said they didn't even think about it at the time. It wasn't even
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
questioned. I mean, I would maybe say the only criticism, maybe, I think also they were saying, well, there weren't, sort of Asian actors around in the 70s as much. I don't know if that's 100% true. Maybe they probably didn't actually actively try that hard.
Yeah.
I mean, you think
If they really wanted to, I think if they really wanted to, they could have. But I think it still wasn't questioned.
I'll say one thing though. Although this actor is playing like a stereotype of a character, it's not done in like a Mickey Rooney way in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's kind of understated in a way.
Yeah,
it's not an
which is why
over-the-top.
I think you could watch it and be like, not even aware of it.
It sometimes gets a little bit jumbled up as well, because then it's also set in the Victorian times, which were sort of even more back in the past. So you have references in the script as well, which I don't think they would say in the 70s, but they would in Victorian times, which is just because it's set in Victorian times, it's sort of highlighted it even more in a way, I think, as well. You've got to see it's the 70s doing historical, which is sort of even worse.
Yeah.
And also played by the actor from Invasion of the Dinosaurs, the one who plays the unit, the baddie. I've forgotten his name.
Yes, the evil general.
Ah.
Yeah, General. Not General
Finch.
Yes, General Finch. It is General Finch. Yeah. So,
but no, I had no idea until I saw on the DVD making of.
And I don't think I knew, until I met him at the signing. I think it was only when he sort of, signed the DVD. I was like, oh, that's.
It was only the eyes, the eye makeup just seemed really off. That I thought if they used some prosthetics or something there, just something didn't seem right. That made me think.
And as we were saying, you've got to look at it as a piece of television from then. That's what we've got to remember, was that this was in the 70s. And we can
if it was like the new Jodie Whittaker episode of his, then it would be like, oh, okay, no, you you can't do that.
Yeah.
I think what I find interesting with Doctor Who in terms of, so I was talking to someone about this even night, and obviously not being a fan, but we're watching it in order. So we're watching sort of the evolution of a series, and there's things that happen within the series now and the way that characters are represented and played that would not have happened even in the 60s when it started, and it's an ever evolving thing, but it's also very ahead of its time in some ways, not always. Now, I also think as well, we're sat here as three white people that can say, well, we're not offended. And I think if I was of a certain heritage and I watched that I might feel differently, and that's totally okay. And that's fine. For me watching it, although I don't think it's right, I'm like, that was also what it was at the time. I know if that was to happen now, it would be cancelled and we'd have much stronger opinion. But equally, you can't go back and change what took place and what happened.
I mean, I was just saying, when you said about Doctor Who evolving, I mean, Leela is the equivalent of Susan going around every episode with her scissors out. Going around with everybody in every single story. And now you've got Leela going around with a knife.
And a Janus
throwing it around and actually killing people still. She is a companion that kills people still.
We've talked recently about the violence and, what some of that is in the series and stuff, which we never would have had in the 60s. But even just going back a character to someone like Sarah Jane, her character was so rounded and so strong-willed. A little bit like Polly, I think, was supposed to be. We won't go down that road. But
there's the mention. There's the mention of Polly. We got it in.
Yeah. But I think that character of Sarah would not have been. The closest was Barbara, and Barbara, even then, was always the damsel in distress. Sarah Jane didn't have any of that. She wasn't really a love interest. Maybe once I can think of.
Possibly Mask of Mandragora, wasn't it? It was a sort of.
I think that was it. And it wasn't even anything look at Mark's face. He's like, what?
I'm trying to think. Yeah.
So confused. But there was literally that once, and it wasn't even a massive thing. It was kind of like a
Will you
insinuating.
stay? Yeah.
So we've moved so much further along in terms of like the females aren't just the love interest or just, and also let's talk about how she left a minute, because previously all the female companions left to be with a man.
Yeah.
Up until Sarah.
Or were killed.
Yeah. Or killed. #button. So I think it's an ever evolving, changing series that's trying to be relevant to its time. And its time was this. It was the 70s.
You know this young female, sir?
Oh, yes. We were attacked by this little man and 4 other little men.
Well, when I got here, sir, he was being strangled with his own pigtail, sir.
Girlish enthusiasm, officer?
You might call it that, sir. I call it making an affray.
So the Doctor and Leela end up at the police station. There's the guy who takes the scorpion venom and kills himself. That was a bit... Do you know what? He has that little thing in the ring, doesn't he? And eats it.
And also, she's never going to get a mention again ever on a podcast, so I'm going to do it.
Here we go. I knew it.
The ghoul is a woman of who in my eyes? Oh, my God.
Who?
The ghoul. I've never seen anything like it. Oh, my God.
the old woman down at the river.
Yes, I know.
If she doesn't get a nomination for Best Supporting Character, I'm...
Okay, I knew you were going to ask this. She's not a woman of who.
Mark, she is a woman of who. She finds the body. Without her, they wouldn't have had the mystery of the story wouldn't even have started.
What was it that the Doctor said at one point? What's the tribe here? And he went Cockney or something.
She should have been the companion. I mean, imagine Ghoul and.
She should have had more to do, more interviews, more. Involvement in the story. She should have been at stage door, letting the people in.
So, sorry, she finds the body of the guy that was looking for his girlfriend at the beginning. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of bodies in this. Sometimes it's a bit hard to keep track.
A lot of body. Yeah, it's a bloody. It's a.
I mean, literally, I think we talked about 2 or 3 bodies in the first 2 episodes. I think.
Yeah, so, I've put body in the river. It's a floater. Lady isn't doing the toe. That's my name.
It's a floater.
That's what she said. It's a floater, all right. Isn't that what she says?
I hope it is.
And this is where let's talk about Jago, because we've already seen him a little bit at the theatre.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant character.
I think he, for me, I mean, everyone in it is brilliant, but I do think he's the standout in it. I mean, I just think... Again, there's not many characters in a Doctor Who.
Sorry, Sarah's looking like she doesn't know who Jago is.
He was the theatre owner.
Oh, the theatre owner. Oh, okay, interesting. I preferred the other guy,
Lightfoot.
Yeah, I preferred him more. I thought he was just more of a fun character. I like the sort of eccentricity. That's what I'm looking for. Eccentricity of the theatre owner.
I think also Jago's. I can't think of very many who actually kind of has a bit of a character arc in 6 episodes. I mean, he starts off as a bit of a bumbling, fool, and by the end, he's kind of becomes quite tough. There's that lovely scene in the final episode where he talks about, I'm actually not as brave as I think I think he's. I mean, I say everyone's brilliant in it, but I think he is just brilliant. And was in Inferno. Sorry, I always do this. He was also in Inferno, the John Pertwee story. So
yes, he was. So.
Chris's favourite, Inferno. Was it Chris?
Yeah,
Chris's favourite. Shout out to Chris, Inferno.
Shout out to the ghoul. She's here in the audience. There she is. I can see her in the third row.
I think why fans like this are all the characters in this, like Jago and Lightfoot, are big fan favourites. It's so much so, Sarah, that you won't know this. They have their own audio series now. Well, they did.
No.
They had... so the guy that played Lightfoot died recently, but before then, they reunited 40 years later, and there's about 13 audio series of Jago and Lightfoot investigating together in Victorian London. It's a brilliant series from Big Finish.
Okay.
They just went on and on. There's tons, and Leela comes back, and there's all sorts of other things. So Jago and Lightfoot, the series, that's how great these characters are, that they've had 13 series on audio together.
13 series. Sorry, did you say?
Yeah, box sets.
Series.
13
Sorry,
box
in my
sets.
head I heard episodes.
No, 13 box sets.
Oh my God.
And
Yeah,
the
they've done
ghoul
a
doesn't
lot.
appear in a single one of them.
So
She was in
that's-
the first one. She started it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how like well loved these characters are, and this world.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's such a good world, and I think it's because it's a world that we feel we know, but we don't know. There's so much familiarity to the world as well. Now, the theatre maker guy, I found him quite over the top, but I quite like that. It sort of fit into it all. And I grew to like him even more as it went on. I think, like, on my first watch, like this one, which it obviously was, like but like I think if I watched it again, I might see it with different eyes. Is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, the toast hasn't cooked in properly yet. First time to begin with, I was a bit like, who is he? What's he doing? And then I grew to like him more because you sort of, like you say, his character sort of fits within that, and how he interacts with the Doctor and what he believes, and it's just so it's some really nice light relief to everything going on.
He's a bit like a sort of Charles Dickens type character.
Yes, he is. Yeah, a bit of a sort of like Fizzywig. Fizzywig? Is it Fizzywig?
Yeah.
The one.
Yeah.
Oh, what does he? Is that in
Christmas.
Christmas?
Yeah,
Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol,
Yeah.
In Christmas
Yeah,
Carol, well, it's which Muppet plays it in? The
Fozzie
Muppet
Bear.
one?
I love how we
Fozzie Bear.
automatically
Fozzie
go to the
Bear plays
Muppets.
it. Like,
Yeah, I know.
that's
You have
perfect.
to.
Because it is the best version of A Christmas Carol. It's true. But I just love how we automatically were like, Fozzie Bear, that's it. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, Charles Dickens wrote Muppet Christmas Carol.
It's one of the best
course.
films ever made. Genuinely.
It is.
Oh,
It
for sure.
absolutely is.
Oh my god, Doctor Who, the Talons of Weng-Chiang with the Muppets.
That would be brilliant. That would be brilliant.
Come on.
Oh, because you'd have as Jago
Leela.
as Jago
Let's cast
Lightfoot.
it. Let's cast it with Muppets.
Well, Rizzo the Rat would be the giant rat. Come on, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jago and Lightfoot would be the Professor and Beaker, wouldn't they?
Well, no, it'd be
No?
Fozzie Bear. Sure.
Oh,
the
Fozzie Bear, I
Doctor would have
suppose.
to. What about Gonzo for the Doctor?
Yeah, Gonzo
Yeah.
could be the Doctor. Yeah, because he's quite. Who'd Leela be then? Miss Piggy.
I suppose it would have to, wouldn't it?
No, Miss Piggy would be what's her name at the
ghoul.
start. Yeah.
Who's Miss Piggy? What other? Isn't it Janice that plays the drums?
Oh yeah, that could be. Yeah, that's Leela.
Janice.
100%. That's Leela. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Weng-Chiang would be Animal.
Oh yeah. maybe Lightfoot could be Kermit and Jago would be Fozzie Bear.
No, Jago could be Miss Piggy, and Lightfoot would be Kermit. That would work.
Who would Mr. Sin be?
Oh,
Beaker?
I don't know. Beaker. That would be the weirdest
Yeah.
Mr. Sin. What? I don't
The Muppets movie.
Anyway, okay, that's it. Yeah, there we
anyway.
are.
My life
Send
is
your
my life.
suggestions, everyone.
Yeah.
Please send us your suggestions.
Just
Yeah.
tweet us. Just tweet us and say, "Come on, who can we get in the Muppets?" Talons
Well,
of
okay. Well,
Weng-Chiang.
speaking of
Well,
Mr.
and
Sin,
then, sorry, one thing I didn't fully understand, so just explain this, because it came up and I was like, is it?
Are we talking
So
about the
was-
Muppets?
No. It wasn't the Master, was it?
No.
Because
I
at one
thought-
point they called him the Master, and then I was like, well, is it the Master? And I got very...
Oh,
But I was
no,
like,
so
or
I
is he
think-
just calling him, as in, because he's referred to him as the Master, as in his Master? It was very confusing.
But because you don't see his face or anything, it could easily be the Master. If you swapped out
Oh,
the
for
story,
sure,
wouldn't
it
need to
should-
change very much.
No, that's why I wondered for a long time. I did wonder if it was the Master for that reason, because we know that like he's unbalanced. We know that like he's disfigured. We know that he's traveled through space. You know, the story of like he's lost his ship would make sense. There's a lot that could fit with it being a
Sorry, I thought you said you lost his shit. I was like, oh yeah, that's
Yeah, that's what I thought. He's landed and lost his shit in Victorian Times.
He's lost his shit. He's on Earth.
I have a feeling in the back of my mind that at one point they were thinking the Master was going to be in this. I feel like I read it somewhere that they were considering it, but then
I can imagine it though. I can definitely see it. I think that would elevate it so much.
Yeah, because we'll get to it a bit later. We've got all the Weng-Chiang stuff and all the backstory. It's a bit rushed at the end of the story. You don't really get a full picture of where he's from and what's happened.
You
I mean,
don't
it sort of explains
even
a bit.
see him until about episode 3.
You don't see him for a long time, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a while. It was episode 4, and I remember I checked. It was the end of episode 4 when it's all sort of summarized, as in like they suddenly conclude like this is what's happened. And he said something like, "Well, we're gonna have to go and get it," and so it felt then like the adventure was starting. Then I was like, "This makes sense why it's 6."
Well, he's Weng-Chiang, and then he's Magnus Grill.
Yeah.
At the end, he's actually Magnus Grill, pretended to be Weng-Chiang.
So who was Weng-Chiang?
So he's the sort of, am I getting this right? The sort of Chinese god that Li Chang and his gang had sort of worshipped and brought over, but actually it's Magnus Grill from the future who is pretending to be Weng-Chiang, like the cult of Weng-Chiang.
I think as well, for me, I know we've talked about this before, but this is, for me, another 6-parter that really works. Like, I don't think at any point, like you say, because you don't meet Magnus Grill till episode 3, but I kind of don't mind that, because you've got the 2 episodes of kind of setting it all up and having the mystery and getting involved and things like that. And I can't really think of anything where it kind of drags, if you know what I mean. It just doesn't. There's not a moment in it where I think, oh, actually, this could be cut. It just kind of goes. It goes so fast as well. I mean, I was sitting watching the episodes.
I'll give it that. It didn't feel like I was watching it, and I didn't feel like my life was ending. Do you know what I mean?
Could we just say this is the first 6-parter you've watched all in one go? I think.
No, it's not. We've had to do 6-parters in one go, surely.
I don't.
It's been a struggle, but I'm sure we've done it.
I don't think so. I think we've done a 1 before and then maybe done 5, but 6 in one go. Oh no, maybe,
yeah, I did all 6 in one go. Well, I tell you, so I did.
Oh, did we? Oh no, we did the mutants all in one go. Did we? No, we didn't even do the mutants all in one go.
No, we did a 3 and a 3.
No, yeah, I don't think you've done 6 before.
I did episode 1.
I'm so shocked.
I did episode 1. And then before I started episode 2, I put a pizza in the oven. And then during episode 2, when it was ready, I stopped, got the pizza out of the oven and ate it, and then carried on watching.
Oh, I think that's still all in one.
So in theory, I just do it all in one sitting, other than stopping to get the pizza out of the oven and put it in.
So going into, we're still in part 1, so
Sorry,
I'll get through a little bit more.
Mark's like, moving on from
So,
Thursday.
well, Mr. Sin. So we see this sort of ventriloquist's dummy that Mr. Chang has, and Jago spots there's blood coming from the hand. What are we all thinking of Mr. Sin? Because I think he's really effective.
Oh, he's scary. I mean, I don't like those ventriloquist dummies anyway. They freak me out. But I think, especially that shot of him, jumping down with a knife towards Buller, and then at the end of episode 2. I mean, yeah, terrifying. Not surprised.
From the start, I knew that wasn't a puppet.
Yeah.
What were you thinking it was? What was?
I just thought it was like a child, or it was some sort of like because very early on, I think in the story, they sort of insinuate that the woman's gone missing and she was at the show. So I wondered whether he was stealing, and she was young. So I wondered whether they were stealing children and brainwashing them. So I was wondering whether it was a child that had been brainwashed initially. But I was like, that ain't it ain't a puppet. And just knew. So the way they were holding it, everything about it, I was like, it ain't a puppet.
And he's also, just going to do my acting glasses again, played by Deep Roy, who I don't know if you've ever seen the Johnny Depp Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but he plays all the Oompa Loompas.
Oh.
Which is always, I always found it was one of those moments where about years later I was like, oh, Oompa Loompa is Mr. Sin.
He's done a lot. Yeah, he's done a lot. He's in like Indiana Jones, he's done Star Wars, he's done, anytime you need a smaller actor, Deep Roy is there. To play,
and I mean, even he's behind a mask and everything, but I think he's excellent in it, and he doesn't have many lines particularly, but he does what he does so well.
Yeah,
That
he's
bit where
terrifying.
Leela throws the knife in his neck and he carries on. I mean, I'm surprised they got away with that. I know we talked about the violence a lot before, but that has escalated to another level in this one.
That's one of those. I know we're jumping it, but episode 2, that cliffhanger where she opens the door and he's coming towards her. I mean, imagine watching that as a kid and then having to wait a whole that's a terrifying last image to have. And then you have to wait a week to find out what's going to happen. I mean,
and I think it's scary because he doesn't speak.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Just this silent thing coming, just coming towards you, like this giant doll coming towards you.
Yeah, I mean, it's so effective. It's so well done.
Yeah. So and because later it's explained that it's there's a creature and he's got the heart of a pig, so he sort of makes those pig noises a bit later on towards the end. Yeah, when he's on the.
It's a terrifying character. It's really terrifying.
It's Peppa Pig. That's not.
Yeah, Peppa Pig's first job.
Yeah. If it was done nowadays, it would be played by Peppa Pig.
Well, then, end of part 1 is the giant rat moment. Oh. Well, giant rat cliffhanger number 1.
Oh.
Probably the one thing that lets this story down in terms of design and production.
You see, I kind of disagree a little bit because to me it's the only kind of shit thing in this story, but I still love it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I watch this story and I think, oh, it's absolutely perfect from start to finish, and then you see the giant rat and you go, oh no, there is one thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not great, and I understand it's not great, but part of me just thinks there's got to be something in this that doesn't quite work, and then it's like the giant rat appears and you're like, yeah, there we go. It's just
yeah. Do you know what? I think it's just because of giant rats. So I had a moment where, because you don't really see it's a rat for a while, and I thought that it was a hound of Baskerville.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was trying to do some sort of like hound. I was sort of trying to be like the whole Sherlock thing. And I thought it was trying to insinuate that it was a dog or something like that. Or the beasts in the sewers. Sewers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sewers, I don't know what that word was. Then the rat appears, and I was like, oh. I was a bit like, well, what's that about? And I know it's trying to do its own thing.
Well, I saw the new CGI rat, which is on the Blu-ray, which they've redone. Which is so much more effective.
I'm a traditionalist, you see.
There is that option.
I'm a traditionalist. I went proper.
I did Britbox.
Well, yeah, there we go.
I mean, they did well for what they could do. I mean, we've had giant spiders, giant maggots. We've had giant ants. Just giant rats now. Yeah. Now we have had a lot of giant creatures, and the idea is that
We've had dinosaurs.
Yeah, giant. But they were sort of giant in the first place.
Small dinosaurs.
Yeah, no, I stopped myself.
No, that was the other way around. They were small dinosaurs. Those ones.
Yeah, they were too small. And the idea is that whatever the experiments they've been doing has sort of worn off on the creatures, because there's that sort of not giant spider, but there's a bigger spider, isn't there, that the Doctor finds. I think that got a little bit lost in the script, in the sort of... There's like one line to explain it, basically.
Yeah.
But you needed some creature in this
to
kill everyone down for a couple of cliffhangers worth. So, giant rat. And then we go on to part 2. Dinner at Lightfoots, I've put, because that's great. Where Leela, that's where we have all that really sort of comedy stuff with Leela, with them eating the meat and the buffet and all of that, and Lightfoot being a bit like surprised about how she's behaved. I love all of that.
I love that scene, because the thing, I was watching the documentary on the Blu-ray about it, and what I love about that scene is, and the guy who plays Lightfoot says this, is he adapts to her. So the only thing that he disagrees with her with is, her not using a napkin. I think that's such a lovely little touch that he's too gentlemanly to say, no, we don't do it like that. He's adapted to her, but the only thing he says no to is just, no, use the napkin. Don't use the tablecloth. I just think it's a lovely little scene.
Their relationship, very much, if we're going down the whole My Fair Lady route, is it's not Professor Higgins, it's the captain.
Oh, Colonel.
I don't actually know My Fair Lady. All I know is that Martine McCutcheon played it.
Of course you know that. Of course
I don't know anything else about it.
That is such a Mark thing. I love it.
She didn't even do that much of it, Mark. She was sick most of it.
She got an Olivier Award for it, so there we go.
She got an Olivier Award for it. And what's her name did it? Oh gosh, what's her name?
Wasn't she papped in like saying she was ill, and then she was perhaps going into nightclubs. And Martine McCutcheon, this is not
Yeah.
not Leela.
What's the name
Yeah,
of the
I think so.
actress that was her understudy? And she's been in Wicked, really famous.
It will come back to you.
I'm gonna have to look it up. It's gonna annoy me.
But the way that it's played and the way, Louise Jameson is brilliant. Louise Jameson can be in My Fair Lady. I don't think Martin McCutcheon could be Leela.
What a
Just
brilliant
put it
bit
like
of casting.
But no, what happens in it then? Is it so it's sort of it?
So
It's
Victorian-
a cockney woman who she sells flowers, and she basically there's a professor who's an elocution specialist, and him and his friend, who is I think a sergeant, they make a wager that he says he could teach anyone he could change anyone, and he goes, all right, her, and he's like, fine. So they take her in, and they basically try and make out that she's a real lady. So they do all these lessons, and they have to try and make society believe that she's a proper lady and not just some woman selling flowers on the street. And so she goes to this the derby or the races, and one of the men there falls fabulously in love with her, and she kind of lets herself away, but he loves her. Short version, obviously by this point they've fallen in love, but they're very different people, and blah 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 blah. That's
That's a great summing up of the.
And then at the end of the show,
and it's a musical.
Yeah, and it was a play as well. There was a play called Pygmalion, but My Fair Lady. And then at the end of the show, a giant rat comes on, and no, just for listeners, Mark's face was a bit like, really? No.
Well, I don't know. And then in this episode, talking about shows, it goes very Phantom of the Opera all of a sudden, because then we get that chase the Doctor through the backstage of the theatre. I think this is where we see the underground, the sort of lair of Weng-Chiang. Trying to find my notes. But yeah, it goes very Phantom of the Opera there, all behind the scenes. And it's great that they use that real theatre because you got all the ropes and stuff.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, all that sort of chase scene as well. It's just, yeah. And I think notes I put again, and we've already mentioned this, but then the scary, the proper scary cliffhanger of Mr. Sin holding the knife, and
Carrie Ellis was the name I was thinking of before.
Oh, I saw her in Anything Goes the other week. She's very good.
Jim.
Yeah, with Bonnie Langford.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bonnie Langford.
So Carrie Ellis was Martin McCutcheon's, not understudy. I think they shared the role, and then basically Martin McCutcheon was never there, so she did more than planned.
Mark McCutcheon had to promote her music career as well at the same time, I think. So she was busy, to be fair.
Yeah, you all make choices. Okay, move on.
She got to number 2 with On the Radio.
And she was a swan.
Anyway.
And she was a swan on The Masked Singer. So what a legacy.
Oh, was she?
She was.
Oh, wow. Anyway, okay.
Oh, and she was killed. And she was killed by Large Will of Cheese in Midsummer Murders. That's what I know her from.
Of course.
She doesn't last 5 minutes. She's dead pre-titles, but she gets killed over the head.
And every Christmas she's on TV in Love Actually.
Never seen it.
Have you not?
No.
That's a film that's very much, again, I think that was 2002, I think that might have been on my 2002 list. I'm going to Google that one.
Anyway, okay, let's go to part 3. So, Mr. Sin's got the knife in the neck. Leela leaps out of the window. Amazing stunt there as well, and gets onto the back of that awesome car, and off she goes.
This episode also has one of my favourite cliffhangers, I think, ever in Doctor Who. Ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What, Leela and the Big Rat?
Yeah. I think that is it. Yeah, I think that's a. I remember going to a convention in about 2014 that Louise Jameson was at, and on her panel, someone stood up and said, "This is a bit of a spoiler for you, Sarah, but I'm sure you won't mind." But
should I shut my ears?
No, it's fine because it's a funny story. But so a fan stood up and said, "Leela never screams apart from in the Talons of Weng-Chiang when she's scared." He goes, "Were you annoyed that was her only scream?" And she said, "Well, what I used to do," she goes, "I used to get scripts for it, and it would say Leela screams, and I would just rub it out, or cross it out. But I allowed her to scream in this one. She said, and she goes, and also, to be honest, she goes, if a large rat was gnawing at your leg, you wouldn't really just shout, "Oi, get off," would you? I mean, you'd do a proper old scream. So she was like,
Yeah.
I allowed it. So yeah, I think what I love about it is for the first time it shows Leela scared, and she's not scared. Like I say, she's killing people for the last 2 episodes, and she's running out of windows and things like that. But yeah, I think that is a brilliant cliffhanger. And it's a piercing scream as well.
From an audience point of view, you have genuine fear. Like, there was a point where I thought she might die, actually, because it seems so. The stakes seem really high,
and it's a proper scream. It's a good scream. I mean, we've had a lot of Doctor Who screams in our time, but that one is a proper. Like, she sounds terrified.
Yeah,
I suppose the only thing is, because you've had that first episode cliffhanger with the rat, if they'd left it until you see the rat only in part 3, because you've already seen it and you've had a cliffhanger of it, that's the only thing that lets it down for me, is because it's like, oh, the rat again.
But I think what I like about it more than the first one is it's just, you just see the rat, whereas in this one, in a way, it kind of shows how dangerous the rat is, instead of just like bumbling along, kind of like it does in the first episode.
It eats Mr. Chang's leg off at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I think that, and that, like I say, even now, that's a cliffhanger that I watch and go, oh, like kind of get a bit of chills down the back of my spine, thinking, I know she's going to be fine, but it's just, yeah. And again, Louise Jameson does it really well.
Oh my God, imagine if that was Susan.
Actually, that was Martine McCutcheon.
Oh my God, Martin McCutcheon with a bit of cheese, attracting the rat. Anyway, this is part 3 where Chang is hypnotising the girls because Weng-Chiang needs their life energy. So he's getting desperate.
I'm a lady.
Leela's like following and dresses up as one of the girls, and that's how she gets into things. So Leela's, got her own bit of story. I mean, for a 6-part, that's good. She's quite separate to the Doctor for a good chunk of it.
And I think that's what's so good about her character is, like you said, she can go off and do things. Like, she won't just sit around and just kind of be the damsel in distress. If she can go and kill Magnus Grill, she'll go and bloody do it. I mean, she does get quite close a few times. And yeah.
And then I think this is where we're finding out about the box and the Doctor and Lightfoot. They go out on the boat. Some great location filming on there. And we actually haven't talked. The Doctor's outfit is pretty good in this, isn't it? Sort of the Sherlock Holmes, the cape and the hat that he's got.
And it just works so well. I mean, I couldn't see him in the scarf and hat, and I think the costumes in this are beautiful. I think the way they're all suited and booted is just, and he's very Sherlock Holmesy, of course.
He's very Sherlock Holmesy.
His acting, he's still amazing. We haven't had a bad performance from Tom Baker at all. He's still serious when he's talking to Jago. He's very, when the stakes are high with the Doctor, because he knows that Weng-Chiang is a dangerous threat. But he does those flippant remarks as well when he's talking to various people. But then he can just completely go into, this is serious, this is really dangerous. And Tom Baker did play Sherlock Holmes.
He did
at a later date. He did. Sherlock Holmes. Yeah. I've never actually.
It must have been his casting tape that he sent in then, surely.
I mean, there's a great quote that Tom Baker says where he played both Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty in a stage play. He played the same characters in the same play and cocked them both up. That's what he says. That's how he describes his Sherlock Holmes. Apparently, he says he wasn't very good. Well, I don't know. I've not seen it.
No, I would think he'd be amazing as Sherlock Holmes. He'd be perfect. Okay, well, going into part 4 then. Leela gets changed, clothes watched again into that dress.
And what a change! What a change!
That is Eliza Doolittle, isn't it? I mean, that
is her Eliza Doolittle moment.
From a very revealing outfit to an Eliza Doolittle dress.
So they're off to the theatre for the evening, and we have Victoria Music Hall time.
And I'm going to ask this question now, and I hope you're not offended by this, Sarah, but have you ever done music hall? Because I could see you properly on that stage going, Daisy. Yeah.
Have I ever done a musical or
Like
have what?
Music hall. Music hall.
Music hall.
Yeah.
I've done a musical. Music hall. No, but I did. I used to do like World War songs and stuff like that.
I could see Sarah doing that. I really could, you know.
Yeah. When I was at Cathedral for Remembrance Day, I did some war songs, like Vera Lynn songs and stuff like that. And we did a project at college where we went around old people's homes, and I did stuff like that then, Vera Lynn songs and stuff like that. So yeah, I've done things like that. Yeah,
I think you'd be very good at it. I just can imagine.
Our primary school did a night at the Victorian Music Hall. We did all of that in primary school. And did you guys ever have that day out to the Victorian place where you were to dress up and go around and do all of that?
No, I never got to do that.
Yeah, we all had to dress up and I'd like lunch in a little like wrapped up thing with a stick.
Oh.
On your shoulder like that and a cap. Yeah, you used to do that because that's when I met Queen Victoria on the train. Really scary.
Just casually met Queen Victoria.
I know, it was like they were like, she's in there, go in there, and she was there in all her black with all these flowers sitting in this carriage, and I had to go up to her and say, hello, and she was like, oh, and what do you do? And I was like, I'm a farmer. Right?
My mum has to do it every year because she works in a school. You have to take the kids. She does it every year.
Yeah, and she was like, "Oh, that's very good. That's very good. You're keeping the crops and everything." And I was like, "Yes." And then and they had the Victoria Musical and Forever Blowing Bubbles, and we also did Sherlock Holmes the musical as well.
Never did any of that. God.
Oh no, we definitely did.
I clearly had a sheltered childhood watching Talons of Weng-Chiang and doing nothing else.
Well, you got your bit here. You saw the Victoria Musical in this.
That's true. And also, I feel like, if you don't mind, this is the time I'm going to mention. So I actually have the script to episode 4 of the Talons of Weng-Chiang.
Have you?
I do.
Oh yeah, episode 4
of the original script. So, I don't know if you know this. I probably have mentioned it, but my dad is a magician, or used to be a magician. And one day he was at the Magic Circle, and a gentleman called Larry Barnes, who was the most lovely man you could ever have met, came over to my dad and said, "Oh, your son's a big Doctor Who fan, isn't he?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Well, I worked on an episode many years ago. Would he like the script?" And my dad said, "Oh, yes, he would love it." And he said, "Oh, don't worry if not. He'll use it to take telephone messages on." So, being like, "Oh, God, no, he would love it." So... I got presented with episode 4 of the Talons of Grill, which was what it was originally going to be called, by Larry Barnes, who was the magic advisor on Talons of Weng-Chiang. So not only did he do the bit with, the Doctor and Jago, and I think, is it episode 2 when all the silks are coming out of the pocket and does that, but he also does all the bit in episode 4 with Weng-Chiang doing all the cabinets and stuff. So he went and choreographed it in a way. And he very, very kindly gave me that script, which I've since got people. I've got people at conventions to sign, and it's amazing reading through it. I mean, it's just like it's a piece of history.
It's history,
yeah. And I mean, reading bits like I remember exactly the scene where the lady's on stage singing Daisy. It says in the script, a person is on stage singing a famous musical number. The camera pans up to the Doctor and Leela and all that. And the other thing I do remember is it is written. Lee Seng-Chang's lines are written a bit strange, shall we say? They are sort of, the intonations and stuff are a bit odd. But I'm very, very proud.
Is that because he's playing that character on stage, though?
No, there are certain
magician, Chinese magician, as it
there
were.
are certain words that are used, like trick, which are written differently to be sort of a Chinese version of how you would say that word. So it's a fascinating thing to read, but yeah.
So you know the trick with the cards and the gun and that. Is that like a real thing, or is that like a TV?
I don't think
because I was like, how did they do that? If that is an actual, is that like a genuine trick
I've
that someone would do
never
on
seen
stage.
anyone do it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not a trick. I mean, I know that the actor who played Weng-Chiang had to actually learn how to do all the things of pulling out the swords and the levitating girl, and I think the first episode, all of
that's all done properly, isn't it? On stage.
That's all. And I remember Larry saying to me that he had to the actor had to sign a disclosure form to say he wasn't able to sort of tell anybody how he did it. But yeah, I mean, it was Larry worked on lots of different TV shows as a magic advisor, and yeah, so it's a lovely bit of memorabilia to have.
Because it's nice to see the actual. You're sort of there in the audience with everyone watching the tricks and stuff. There's time in the script for you to sit and watch the performance, and the Doctor and Leela's up there in the box watching as well, and it doesn't sort of rush over that. You get to actually see a bit of magic and. Where she's left, she goes up pretty high. She goes like over him. I'm just like, oh my god, she's wobbling a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're like, I hope she's all
and
right.
that great moment when he's got the gun and he brings the cards closer to him. I mean, just yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a really good moment. I enjoyed all that because that is the point where you're like, is this his plan? And it's not his plan. And yeah, I liked all that.
And that's where he's doing the sword box thing, and he brings the Doctor down, and then it's the guy
Casey,
the backstage
poor
guy,
Casey.
Casey's, which is a bit of a shock.
That's quite sad because I do like that character. I think he's quite a nice little fun character. It's got a sort of brutal way to kill him, really, but
yeah. But then I suppose, because it's supposed to be Weng-Chiang's killed him on his way out.
So yeah, I think that's the.
Yeah, he sees him and he's shot. He dies of shock, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Another death.
Another death.
That poor coroner.
And meanwhile, Mr. Sin is put in a basket and left at Lightfoot's house for a while.
Yeah.
It's the normal Saturday night for Mr. Sin,
Just as it, yeah. I'm trying to read my notes here. I'm trying to read my own writing. This is where it's getting a bit difficult to read.
I've got the rat eating Weng-Chiang as the only silly bit, in my opinion. That doesn't look great.
I don't know. You don't. It's dark enough that you can't really see a lot. It's all a bit. And I was surprised when I first watched it that we saw him later on. I thought you'd think that's the end of him and he's gone, and then you see him again.
I think they're even.
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw him again. I thought he'd just been. It's because I think you see the rat's bum.
And there's the title of the episode right there. It's because you see the rat's bum.
I don't remember seeing it, but
it's the first time where you see the full rat and you see how bad the rat is, and you kind of get a bit of a bum shot of the rat. So when you have the face and all that, you're kind of like, okay, well that's the rat. But when you see like the full thing, you're like, oh, it's just a really bad prop rat.
I suppose it could have been shot a bit differently. I'm just reading my right. I've got Chang. Oh yeah, guy gets stabbed. Oh, and I've put that reminds me of when it was ages ago on This Morning where they had a knife thrower and it accidentally got. Have you seen that clip?
No.
Oh, it was years ago. I think like Fern Britain was on it or something back then. They got this person, this sort of woman tied up, and he's doing knife throwing. And he throws it and accidentally gets her, and they're like, "Oh, there's a bit of blood there." It's on This Morning. It's on YouTube. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Stop throwing.
Marvellous. Very good. Very good.
Oh my God, there's blood.
She's got a cut. She does have a cut, but do we know how many that was?
67.
67. Round of applause. Marvellous. And we'll see you after the news.
Don't try it.
Chang's This Morning moment on stage.
Except for his is he opens the door and a dead body falls out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you haven't got Fern Britain going, "Oh, there's a little bit of blood there."
Just a little bit of blood.
And then they shut the curtain and Martine McCutcheon comes on and does "This Is My Perfect Moment."
Oh my God, it's all coming together. And then the Muppets come on stage and they're all cheering.
Martin, get off! Martin, get off!
Take your Olivier and go, for God's sake.
The Talons of Weng-Chiang starring Martine McCutcheon, the
Muppets,
Fern Breton,
Maybe Martine McCutcheon could play Leela. Maybe that's why we've not
That's
been
true,
able to cast
'cause
it with a Muppet.
There is always one human in it, isn't there, normally? So maybe
Yeah.
Martin McCutcheon is the guest star.
Maybe that's
Be
why we've
quiet,
just not been able
Kermit,
to
or I'll
cast
cut
it.
your throat.
Maybe the two old guys can be sat in the top of the, when the body comes out and goes,
Yes.
that was awful.
Maybe the other one. We've got the Doctor and Leela in one, and then it scans over to the one next to it, and they're both there.
If anyone is listening to this,
So again,
if anyone is listening to this who is great at doing photoshopping, please can someone Photoshop those two old guys in the talons of Weng-Chiang. Just
next to the Leela and Doctor, yeah.
just the minute that Katie
Yeah.
falls out, they just go, whoa.
This wasn't in the show last night. No, they got this up.
Oh, goodness me.
You also find out a bit more about Chang's backstory in this, about where.
Sorry, it's got to that moment where we just have a bit of a giggle.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
You find out about his backstory, about where the cabinet and everything, and then I sort of feel sorry for him by the end. By the time he's been eaten by the rat and he's just sitting there later on, I feel like, because he wasn't the big baddie, he was the servant, the one that's always the one just working for the main baddie.
I mean, I don't feel that sorry for him. He killed a lot of people.
He did kill a lot of, yeah.
And a lot of women were killed.
I mean,
he got a lot of women killed.
Yeah, but he
doesn't even really redeem himself, does he? Really? Because in episode 5, he can't even bother to tell them where he is. He leaves a clue, and I'm like, just tell him. It's probably because he's high on drugs, isn't he? Let's face it, because he's legless, as in he hasn't got any legs, not drunk. He's absolutely off his head.
He's had too many, what do we call them?
Muffins.
Camparis, I don't know.
Muffins?
Campari.
What drink do we have at the Oscars?
Oh, Terry Nations.
He's had too many Terry Nations.
Oh, he's had too many Terry Nations. Yeah, that's it. Okay, well, I think he's the acting is and the character is all there for me to feel slightly sorry for him in a way. Okay, just me.
Yeah,
okay,
sorry.
fine.
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel sorry for him, but I don't see him as the bad guy.
Yeah, you summed it up. That's what I agree. Yeah.
I think he sort of led down a path, but ultimately he made his choices because he got given all that power to, the reason he could do all those tricks and do all that, and he had power beyond the years is what he was told. And he used that for his own advantage to do all this, to travel and do his own show. So, it's not like he didn't gain from it. And in exchange, he had to keep bringing women to be killed.
Yeah, okay. I see your point now. Yeah.
Sorry, Mark.
Anyway, moving on. And for having, this Jago and Lightfoot double act that end up having all these audio dramas, they only meet at the end of the story. They only have that last episode together.
Episode 5, in my notes I've put, that's when they first meet.
Yeah. So they have one episode together, and the chemistry is so great between them that from that one episode,
they go on to have a whole series, a whole 13 series.
They do.
Weren't they in other sets as well? I feel like they came and did other
aren't they in all sorts of
a Colin Baker set at one point, and they're in a
they do some other Tom Baker ones as well. They come back and they do loads. Yeah,
but there's sort of a real. They kind of remind me of Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie.
Laurie.
Yeah, what were their characters?
Jeeves and Wooster.
Yeah, very Jeeves and Woostery.
I suppose in a little sort of.
In another,
kind of.
They're not no one's but that's sort of the eccentric one to the
sensible one, level-headed one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeeves and Wooster. The new Jeeves and Wooster. There we go. The Talons of Weng-Chiang, starring Martin McCutcheon, Stephen Fry,
Stephen Fry.
Hugh Laurie, the Muppets. This cast is getting amazing.
Martin McCutcheon.
Roland Rat could be the rat, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nah, put it as
This is
Rizzo. Put it as
amazing.
Rizzo.
No, in my head, it's some like either really big star or some 90s star that's making a comeback. So, like, when Disney did The Little Mermaid, oh, no, not Disney, but they redid a live action of Little Mermaid recently, and they had Shaggy as Sebastian, and it's like the most amazing thing to watch on YouTube. It's hilarious and brilliant, and I love it. It's like, it's a thing you didn't know you needed in your life that's in your life now. You're welcome. But I feel like it might be someone like Peter Andre's playing the rat or something like that. It'd be something like that, or it's like, and the rat played by Lizzo. Do you know what I mean? Like, or the other extreme. It's either like some massive star or it's Peter Andre.
Okay, we'll go for Peter Andre then. The Talons of Weng-Chiang, starring
Or you could have a cameo.
Martin McCutcheon.
Yeah. Hear me out. Anne Charlson as the ghoul. Harold, I found the body, Harold.
Yes, that's it.
Anyway, getting back to
Okay, right, back to part 5. So they find out they've left behind the key or something from the cabinet. The trionic lattice, actually. I made a note of that, which always reminds me of apple lattice pies when he said lattice. Yeah. I was getting a bit hungry then, watching that.
Did you random question? Sorry, I've just realised. Did you ever have an action figure of Mr. Sin and Matt? Because do you remember they brought one out, didn't they?
No, I didn't get that. It's that set. No.
No, I remember it was one of the very. They did the sort of where they brought out lots of classic monsters as action figures. One of them was. Did they do a robots? Didn't they? They did the robots from the Robots of Death.
Robots of Death,
Morbius,
robots, yeah.
And then Magnus Grill and Mr. Sin. Yeah, remember that? It was about 2008. Has absolutely no relevance to what you were talking about, but I've just.
Well, I mean, making this, who would they? If you told any of the cast and crew in like 40 years there'd be action figures of this,
yeah,
I don't think they'd have believed you.
No.
I still don't believe it.
Or there'd be 13 series of Jago Lightfoot. They wouldn't believe.
When you finish Doctor Who, that'll be the next thing.
Oh my god, I'd love to listen to all those Jago and Lightfoot. They are
to listen to who.
Yes.
No, I better not put that. I better not put that in. No.
So what have we got here? I've written "Don't take sweets from strangers" only because. Why did I write that?
Was it? I put. You know the sting of the scorpion. It looked like a midget gem.
Oh,
do you remember little midget gems?
I think that's why I put "Don't take sweets from strangers" because it's making the thing is poison.
Even the doctor said to him at one point, "No, don't give me that."
When I was really young, I did take sweets from strangers once.
Mark.
It must have been like 6 or 7. And I was out, and it was a snowy day. It was like snow everywhere. And I was outside my house, like outside of the garden in the road. I don't know what I was doing. I don't know. And then this old lady came up to me and was like, "Hi." I was like, "Hi." She was like, "Do you want some sweets?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh, well, my house is just here. Come with me." And I was like, "Okay." And no, it was in like a close. So she was like a sort of a neighbour. We didn't know who she was. Anyway, I went to her house and she gave me some Smarties. And then when I came back outside, my mum was like, "Where have you been? What's going on?" Anyway, but it turned out she was a really nice lady that lived over the road. And she'd been a nurse in the war. And she was diabetic. And she became like, she knew everyone in the close after that. And then there was quite a few of us, like kids in the close. We always used to go around her house and stuff. So it was fine. Obviously, she probably was like, "Oh yeah, I probably shouldn't have like just asked you to come in for sweets." But no, I remember that very clearly. It was a little box of Smarties that she gave me. But she was so lovely. She was really, really nice.
So we had a similar thing in primary school. So our village primary school. So you had like the back lane to like, so you had like the park, you know, your fields and stuff in the school where you could go and play. And there was like a back lane where, and there were some houses just there. And there was an old man that lived in one, and some people lived in those houses. And he was a neighbour to one of them, and he offered some sweets over the fence to the kids in school. And we had a whole assembly on not accepting sweets from strangers. And like, I don't think he meant anything by it, but equally, only one of the kids knew him, and the rest didn't, and it just caused a whole thing.
I've got my own sweet story as well. Was in 2002. I went. This is such a me story. I went to a signing event, and Tom Baker gave me a whole tube of Jelly Babies. I was about 8 years old. I must have been, yeah, about 7, 8 years old. And it was the first time I ever met him. I was, and I remember he was signing. It was just like signing autographs, and I was dressed up as him. And I asked him. I said, "Would you like a Jelly Baby?" And he was like, "Oh no, but you can have these." And it was like a little tube of jelly, you know, like the ones you get at Christmas that are in the. He gave me the whole packet of those sealed, and he said, "And I'll tell you what," and he signed them, and it says, "I've got them. I've still got them. Obviously, I've eaten them, but it's an empty Jelly Baby packet, and it says for David, Tom Baker." It's so sweet. He signed them, and he said, "There you are. Those are for you." It was very sweet.
I think it's acceptable to take sweets from Tom Baker.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it now. He probably was wanting to get rid of them because I don't think he actually is a big fan of Jelly Babies. I think he was like, "Great, give these to the kids." But
give it to a child.
Yeah, give it to the child. But yeah, it was very sweet. Yeah.
But kids, if you're listening, don't take sweets from strangers because it could be scorpion venom.
Unless it's Tom Baker.
So it's interesting in my village as well. Like we used to, so it wasn't a big village, but we had two parks with two ends of it. So we had a big park, and that led on to a little park at the other end. And there's a guy that lived there, who so basically parents would always know where you were because people who just lived in the village would just be like, "Your kids are here." And like, so then you go to another end of the village, and some person that lived there be like, "Oh, the kids are here." And he had a dog. I've forgotten his name. But we used to walk the dog, and like, yeah, we just it was a very random like situation whereby just because everyone knew each other in the village. And this came out much later as an adult. So like my friend, like 2 or 3 doors up, so her uncle was a police officer, and said to her, "Don't go in his house," and like that was all that was ever said. And then like this came out when we were grown ups, like he basically was a paedophile, and her uncle was a police officer and knew that, but this is before like the laws were out so he was like, "Just do not go in that house." So he knew being a police officer, but wasn't allowed to like say or do anything. He was just like, "Just don't go in that house. Don't go in that house. Don't even talk to them." And I know exactly which house it was. Like they've lived with his mum, and they've all died, and it's different people there now. So, but like growing up, we never did because we were like, "Oh, they're a bit odd," and just left it. But thinking about it, like there's everyone in the village, you just go up to people like, "Hey," you're just like, "Oh, what your dog? Well, I'll do this, I'll do that," and yeah. And I just remember that one. And he was like, "Do not go in that house."
Creepy.
Okay, back to Talons Winter. I don't know how to move on from that.
So which Muppet will be?
Oh my god, I forgot this was the 6th part. I thought we were on the last part, but we're not.
I will say as well, there's another great cliffhanger of. Oh, sorry, go on.
If you say, I've ordered ice cream, so at some point I'm just going to pop down and get it. Just,
Another great cliffhanger of Magnus taking and again, Leela. If that had been another assistant, they would have just screamed and thought, "Leela," she's like, "Fuck you! I'm taking you. I'm fighting for my life," sort of thing.
Well, that was the moment when that. To be fair, that was the first moment where I realised it wasn't the master.
Yeah.
Because up
we ain't
until
got no
then,
other reason. Yeah,
like we don't really know who it is, other than it's this evil guy, and they believe it's a master. He calls him master. And we just know that it's this evil guy that's like telling them what to do, who gets life force from people. That's all we sort of know.
I love how quick it is. It's literally a sort of blink and you'll miss it kind of moment. Really.
Yeah. And his face is just all disfigured, like it melted. It's like a wax candle that's melted on one side.
And again, imagine waiting for that next episode.
Is that Phantom of the Opera influence then?
Yeah.
Is that what happens in Phantom of the Opera?
He doesn't. They don't rip his mask off, but you do see the other side of his mask, and it's all.
They do in Phantom, though, don't they? She takes his mask off.
Oh, does she? Oh, yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of Phantom of the Opera, so my Phantom of the Opera knowledge is not as good as.
It's clever that they
Martine McCutcheon knowledge.
Time.
Or your Muppet knowledge.
Muppet knowledge, yeah.
I reckon Martine McCutcheon's probably been in Phantom of the Opera at some point. I'm sure she.
No. She would have been, but she was too ill, so it was the answer.
Hold your thought. I'm just going to go and grab my ice cream.
Okay.
In
fact, Martine McCutcheon.
It's Calabrasella gelato.
Oh, nice. That's very nice. Get it before it melts.
I mean, if Martine McCutcheon had been in this story, she probably wouldn't have finished it because she probably would have had to have been ill by episode 2 or 3.
Look, this is a brick of ice cream. Like, I just opened it.
Order. Why have they sent you that? Did you order that?
Yeah, because then I got like 20% off, so...
Episode 6, going into episode 6. So Sarah's just having her interval ice cream at the theatre.
I really am.
Served by the ghoul.
What happens? Also, Jago and Lightfoot get a lot of time here. They're locked up. This is where I thought there might be a little bit of padding here because you're just waiting for them to defeat Magnus Grill now. There's a bit of lock up and escape. Only a little bit. It's
a lot of talking him down, a lot of like that back and forth, yeah.
There was a little bit, and then we find out he's the Magnus Grill, the Butcher of Brisbane, or something like that. Just random. And this is where Mr. Sin gets trigger happy on the dragon of all things. That's an amazing.
I say that dragon, that whole set is amazing, especially that dragon. And considering it was polystyrene, because I'm sure there's a making of where they talk about it, and you see them like cutting it, and it's polystyrene. I mean, it looks, yeah. I mean, that's like Hollywood movie. All these sets and stuff are sort of Hollywood movie.
That set is amazing. I mean, we've had some really good sets. We've had the houses and stuff like that, but that one in particular, just for what is essentially this one episode, it's really good.
Yeah, I wonder what happened to that dragon afterwards. I hope they didn't. They probably just broke it up and.
Probably. It's probably still at BBC somewhere. I've been waiting to use on another show.
Yeah. And so this is where it did fall down a little bit. You've got, it's just a lot of talking, and they're being sort of held ransom, aren't they, by the dragon gun thing?
I love that bit, and it always makes me laugh. Is the bit when Leela says to Jago, "You have to distract him so I can grab the gun," and he just stands up and goes, "I say." I don't know, because I do feel like that last episode, it does end very quickly. It is very rushed at the end. But it does kind of feel like a bit of a sort of battle in a way. Because Magnus Grill is such a kind of... He's a great character. He's a great villain for them to end with. But there is part of you that thinks, are they actually going to be able to defeat him? And like the bit when they're sort of behind that... Is it a table, isn't it? Where they're all kind of shooting at him. I mean, it's sort of... And also, again, Leela would just shoot him if it was up to her. I think if this program hadn't been called Doctor Who, it would be called Leela Who, because she'd just go in, shoot him, and
she's proper like having a go at him when he's trying to tie her up and put her in the machine, and she's like, "I'm
see you in hell,
come back and cause vengeance." Yeah, basically, yeah, see you in hell, all this stuff.
I think I'd have liked a little bit more movement. Actually. It felt quite static and like a lot of back and forth in terms of dialogue rather. It's just because that's awesome and everything's taking place basically in one place, you know? Because by then we've also had that epic scene just before that, which was season 5, say that again. We've had that epic scene, which was episode 5, that was the box on the back of the cart being taken away. That was awesome. And you had all of that sort of footage and that sort of movement. And it felt like, where's everything going to? And then this one just felt a little bit one place, you know?
I also wonder if you're gonna build a set like that, you want to use it. That's the other thing.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
I kind of wish we'd seen it a bit sooner.
yeah.
I suppose the direction is a little bit static because you've got them. It's the dragon versus the table, basically. But it's good that you see all those characters together now. You've got everyone in the same room. But yeah, I think maybe that's what it is.
And behind the scenes as well, I know that they, again, watching the documentary on this, they said the reason that final bit is a bit rushed is because they very nearly didn't get it finished. And I think maybe that's possibly why it doesn't look as good as it could, is because they very nearly actually had to scrap the entire program because they weren't going to get it done in time because of things like the shots not working, and in terms of like the explosions not working and things like that. So in a way, I can kind of forgive them a little bit for it being a bit kind of scatty. When I love the bit when Mr. Sin just goes absolutely mad and just starts shooting all the slaves, and I mean, it's just, completely bonkers. I love it. Power hungry.
I like that. That really felt for me the unpredictability of that character. And I loved that. Because that felt really evil. That's why I was like, oh, that character's just so unpredictable, so evil.
And even the bit when he jumped, when at the end when he jumps on top of Leela, and I mean, there is a
and the doctor.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I mean, there is a point where you go, "There's no one in that outfit," and it's just a little. But it doesn't matter to me. That doesn't matter at all.
No, they work with it really well.
And the way that the doctor pushes Magnus Grill into that machine, he probably slams him. He just slams him, switches on, done.
Yeah.
As quick as possible. He proper pushes him.
That's for me, I think, again, I think they could have possibly done something a bit better. It seems a bit of a sort of cop-out to kind of go, push him in there, and that's the end. But Doctor Who does that a lot. Like, this is not the only story it happens in, and it often does happen in six-parters where, like, 2 minutes to go, they go, oh, I don't know how to get rid of them, let's just shoot them or blow them up or something. So,
I think out of all the characters, Magnus Grill or Weng-Chiang is the least memorable for me. Whenever I think of this story, I don't think of him first. I think of all Mr. Sin and Chang and everybody at Jago and Lightfoot. I never really think of that guy in the mask. Really, he's always a bit of an afterthought.
But again, there's another great performance. I mean, it's the guy who's the Morbius, isn't it? It's that same actor who's
Morbius.
Who is it?
Yeah, he's the voice of Morbius in, funnily enough, The Brain of Morbius. It's a very great. I mean, watching it, I was just watching that final episode, thinking he's having a ball doing this, like, because it's a great part, and you can kind of go over the top in it, and sometimes, and I'm sure we've seen this in Doctor Who. Sometimes when actors go over the top, it doesn't work, but for this, it's just like crazy evil.
It comes across as crazy.
Yeah, crazy, mad.
You've lost your mind. What else have you to lose?
I mean, it could have been Omega as well as that character. Same kind of thing.
Yeah.
A guy in a hat.
Man in a mask. Yeah, a guy in a hat.
And the bit as well, talking about how brutal the Doctor is, the bit when he stamps on the key thing, and he does it so near Mr. Sin's face. Like, you see the actor kind of like freak out a little bit. I'm like, bloody hell, blimey. I mean,
yeah, I noticed that when I watched it. Yeah, it's like must be like some resin thing that is.
But it's very close to his face.
Yeah, he's really
when
violent.
it smashed, it was a proper. It took me by surprise how much it smashed, actually.
Yeah, and then it's sort of wrapped up very quickly, and off Leela and the Doctor go. So with some muffins.
The muffins from the Muffin Man on Drury Lane.
Yeah. So I think it's out of a lot of the six parts we've had, it's definitely up there as it actually sustains.
Yeah.
The time.
I give it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's good praise.
Oh,
yeah.
I do find the end is a bit weird. I do find that like that bit where they sort of turn to see the Lee Chang poster is a bit odd. I don't know. It doesn't for me.
I think, ironically, the last episode is the weakest, and I sort of lose interest once we have the baddie.
Yeah.
Like, all running up to it, all the other characters are so strong. But once it's just, we're trying to stop this guy, I kind of lose a lot of my the love sort of goes a little bit. And he's good, but we've had such strong performances before. We've had like fun moments, nostalgia, like I don't know. It just felt I wasn't as invested as I had been in the other 5 running up to it. That when it happened, I was like, okay, apart from the Mr. Singh stuff where it was just a bit, that was really good because it just felt very scary. And maybe it's because we've seen that character the whole way through that I'm invested in that character enough because we literally seen him from the start. He's on stage as the puppet.
Well, there we go. Well, we better head off for the Muffin Man is on his way.
We'll go out the stage door, shall we?
We will go. Yeah, we better get off the stage before Chang starts levitating us all over the place. Yeah.
And I'll be the only one who knows how it's.
That woman comes on and sings her song.
Yeah. Got to move out of the way for the Victorian Music Hall moment.
And I think if we go out the stage door, the ghoul will be waiting for the signing of false teeth.
So yeah, I thought it would be it's a success for all of us. This one, it's up there for everyone.
I think it's for me. This is one of Doctor Who's finest stories, and that's I don't say that often, but I do think that this one is just it's such a beautiful story, and it there are things in it that like giant rats and things like that don't exactly work, but if you look past the giant rat and other things.
I think but ultimately I think you have to do that with Doctor Who on some things. Because it's an old show and it's of its time and it's not what we have on TV nowadays. Well, we expect big budgets.
If we were bothered about all the special effects, we wouldn't love Keys and Marinus, would we?
Oh no, and Keys and Marinus is little hands. Do you know what I mean? And we love little hands.
Yeah. And also,
I literally thought about Keys and Marinus the other day, Oh. I don't even know. It just popped in my head. I was like, oh, Keys and Marinus. Oh, I love that show. I loved that one.
Well, that was the last story of this season.
No.
Another season done.
Go.
No. I genuinely thought you were going to tell me the name of another one then. No.
Oh, can I?
It shows how much attention I've paid to my BritBox that it didn't go into 15.
So do you mind if I say what the next story is going to be called?
Go on.
It's called Horror of Fang Rock.
Horror of Fang Rock.
Fang as in like fangs.
Yeah. See, the thing is, I've got the Hound of Baskervilles in my head, so because we've just done Sherlocky, so. But I don't think it'll be that. Interesting. Okay. I'm going to go, not historical, I'm going to go future, like sci-fi.
It's only 4.
Only 4. I can't believe it's the end of a season.
Yeah.
We had 3 stories with Leela.
Yeah, this was
the initial
3rd,
one, and then 2 as a companion. Well,
because we started off, it seems really recent that we did Mandragora with on those legs. That was the beginning of the season. It's changed so much in this season.
This is one of those seasons actually where the show does change, like you say, so much from the beginning. If you watch it all from the start, it's a very different program when it starts to when it finishes. And because this story was the last of the producer's run, I mean, he does say he wanted to go out with a bang, and I think he very much did with this one.
Yeah.
So different producer next season.
Gosh, okay.
So we'll see what happens.
Exciting, yeah. And he means the Doskers.
And we've got Doskers to sort out as well pretty soon.
I'm not being funny, but you've already decided it. It's just the Ghoul's going to win everything. It's just...
Well, we are going to have best costume and best cliffhanger added as well. I've remembered, so we're doing it.
Can I please put in Leela getting gnawed by a rat in?
Okay, that can be your nomination, cliffhanger. Yeah.
I mean, it won't go in, but I'm just like, I'm just...
Sarah's not saying anything.
I can't remember any yet. Mark has to explain all of them to me. I'll remember this one, and that's probably about it.
Well, I'll start making some lists, and I'll use our wiki Doskers guide.
Yeah,
as a
I'm
basis.
genuinely also thinking, I don't know when we're going to do it. So it's like,
Yeah.
I've got like those two things in my head right now.
That's fine. I'll talk to Jago, see when the theatre's free for it.
Oh,
Get
yeah,
something
we're in the
booked in.
theatre.
Get something booked in. So we'll be back, everyone, on
Back
this
in the
stage.
theatre. Yay!
Yay!
God, and it'll be full of season 14 characters. God,
Yeah.
you'll have the Vox
Yeah.
robots
I
there.
can't believe
I'll start getting it
14.
all organised.
Twos will be there. Eldrad will be there.
Twos.
Yeah,
Ivanov.
they'll be there.
Remember Eldrad?
Eldrad.
Yeah, Giuliano. Oh, Miss Jackson. Well, yeah, so we'll look forward to that. So, David, thank you very
Well,
much. for
thank
joining
thank
us
you.
on this
Thank you very much.
story.
Thank you,
It's
David.
lovely to see you both.
Where can people find you to get in touch?
Hello. My Twitter is at Mrs. Remington fan. And my Instagram is a little bit of chaos. There we go.
Cool. Well, yeah, so we better head off, and this is quite a long episode. Isn't it? So
Sorry about
it's going to take
And
me
it's
ages
going
to
out in
edit.
like 2 days to our members.
It's going out in 2 days.
Oh, is it? Is it that soon? Oh,
we will
blimey.
see you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
we will see you all very soon for our Doskers. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 2watchwho, and you can support us at buymeacoffee.com/2watchwho.
And our members can look forward to nominations on nominations video and nominating. And then we'll have the
We'll be in
Oscars
touch.
soon.
Yeah, it's all happening. Okay, see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.